Well, if I had to pick a favorite piece of furniture, it might be the refrigerator. I love the fridge. Here are my pattern pieces, and I'm drawing them out on my fabric sandwich that I already made. And as usual, I bend the pattern on the lines, and that makes it easier to draw the lines onto the fabric sandwich. And I also poked holes just to mark where the shelves go, and then I use a ruler to connect those dots. Now these are going to be the shelves. There's 4 of them, so I just made one long strip for the pattern, and then I just lift it and trace it on. And this is the divider that will hold the shelves in place. So I get all of that transferred onto there, and then when I cut out my patterns, I really like to keep all the pieces together, even though they are going to be separated eventually and sewn back together. But it helps me keep track of where the pieces are, because it's very easy to lose a piece in the trash. Don't ask me how I know that. Learn from me, learn from my experience. So I'm cutting out the door and leaving it attached by a few threads and cutting out the little shelves, and then you have to cut the slits in the shelves. When you zigzag around those, you don't have to zigzag the slit, you just kind of go across it. And here's the last piece, which will be the side of the refrigerator. So here are all my pieces all cut out already, and I sewed around the opening of the door and around the door, and then I sewed the door on, and then I also sewed that bottom flap on, which will be the bottom of the refrigerator. And as I said, I zigzagged around all of these shelf pieces, and then you do have to cut through the zigzag, because if you don't, the slits won't work, so you have to do that. Now this is where the shelves will get attached. We drew those lines on there, and they are very easy to sew on there, and those will nicely line up there. So, oh boy, I'm going to sew the side of the fridge on. Well, the first time I tried this, I thought, how in the world am I going to sew this thing, this straight piece, onto this curved refrigerator? And I thought, well, I'm going to have to just dive in and do it. And this is how I did it. I just started sewing. This is how I figure everything out. Just do it. So I just started sewing, and then when I got to the curved part, I thought, well, I'm just going to keep sewing. And I kind of just press the pieces together, and they lift up off of the sewing machine, and it just goes right around the curve. Much to my surprise, it was not very hard. And of course, once you make it around the curve, the rest is really easy because it's straight. And as it turned out, this lined up perfectly. So it doesn't always, and even if it doesn't always line up perfectly, it's really okay, because there's kind of a way to hide it, just when you put it together. Nobody's going to be checking your corners. Now I'm going to sew the shelves on, and this is how I do it. I start with the bottom one, and of course, you just sew right on the edge. This attaches them beautifully and makes them really flexible. And backstitch, of course, at the beginning and at the end to make sure it doesn't come off. Here they are. They're so cute. You stand them up. Very easy to fold them up. And the zigzag works great for that. So the next part will be to attach it to the rest of the fridge. Now, in my book, I suggest that you just sew that one edge of it like this, but I actually just was very daring on this demonstration, and I actually sewed it almost, except for that little piece right there, I sewed it almost all the way around. So you have different options. You can either try sewing it on the machine, you can try gluing it, or you can also sew it by hand. So silver duct tape, one of my all-time favorite supplies. And I'm going to use it to make the handle. I put a little strip of it on this piece of sandwich and cut that out. It looks great on there. And next is the divider. This fits in there so nicely, unless if you forgot to cut the slits open after zigzagging. And that keeps those shelves in place really nicely. Well, I had an overwhelming urge to paint this silver. It just really felt like the right color. So I painted it silver. I thought it looked awesome. And I painted after I sewed it all together because this one doesn't have many moving parts. And this fabric paint is really soft. So there it is. It's so cute. And now the next part is my favorite part. Da-dum! The embellishments. Here they are. They're so gorgeous. Now you can just play around with these beautiful embellishments. And I'm sure you have something at home you can use. Like, there's so many different things that you can use to fill the refrigerator with. And so look at those bananas on the top shelf. those were stamens I had. And then I used acorn tops for bowls. Those looked super cute in there. I had those tiny little bottles, and I put little beads in there. Look at the zucchinis in there. Those are stamens that I bought. And I have little leaves that I use to make it look like lettuce. All kinds of different options. So, boy, this is making me hungry looking at this. Well, I hope you have fun making it. It's super fun to make this fridge.